So as you can probably guess, I just saw the Minecraft movie. Actually, that's not true. I did see it 2 days ago, and it's not called the Minecraft movie. It's a Minecraft movie. But here's my stop for a thought. So yeah, I went to the first showing in my area 2 days ago. It was the 7 o'clock showing, and the lobby was jam-packed full of people saying things like, "Flint and steel," and "This is an ender pearl," and hollering, "Chicken jockey." And that kind of culture showing up for the movie really reminded me that I shouldn't take this movie too seriously, so I gently took my thinking cap off, and I was able to enjoy this for what it is. And it's pretty much exactly what you think. As I'm sure you've seen by now, it's half Jack Black announcing what things are, what they're called, how they work, and what they do. Apart from that though, director Jared Hess, who's also the director of friggin' Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite, really got to shine with his direction in this one, which kind of made all those moments pretty amusing, and they worked for me. For a movie that wasn't taking itself seriously at all, and bordering on almost being a parody, which I was kind of expecting from the marketing, but it still caught me off guard, and I was definitely enjoying myself. The promotional run for this movie was excellent, like you couldn't miss it anywhere you looked. Even Young Sheldon, which isn't even on the air anymore, and McDonald's did a collab with this. See, look at what I got from McDonald's. I got this thing, come with this little box of joy, and a collectible. I got like the soda, but if you turn it upside down, it kind of looks like a chicken drumstick. But it either had everyone online completely hating the style and visuals or praising the silly moments of humor reflected in the trailers and by the cast, which I was already on board with. Like, you can tell everyone's having a pretty good time being a part of the Minecraft movie. And I'm kind of relieved that we finally have this movie after being caught in development hell for well over a decade at this point. But does the finished product stand out from what we've come to hold so dear in the games? Well, I don't really think so, but that's not what this is about, Lisa. Sure, this might have been better off if it were animated similar to the Mario movie, but I think the bar was pretty low going in, and as for video game movies, this by far isn't the worst. Clearly it's not trying to be anything spectacular, and if you watch it with that mindset, you're probably gonna have a pretty good time. However, I'll just get my biggest complaint out of the way. With the audience being mostly fans of this game, this movie treats you like you're dumber than rocks and you don't know what movie you're coming to see, since in frustrating fashion, it's very over-explanatory. Unfortunately, this film opens with a 5-minute monologue of Steve explaining the overworld and how he got stuck in the game, giving an overly wordly and hilariously specific narration to catch us up. However, my biggest gripe is that it really would have served the film better if they just opened differently and saved this for later on when we actually meet Steve, for a couple pretty good reasons. Because by the time we get to the overworld, we've already seen it. There's no more awe factor, and what's frustrating to me is, like, if you watch the movie, it feels like it was shot and edited to include that part later on, like when I said we meet Steve. If they'd approached the mysterious cube and Steve's weird-ass dog Dennis running around on his mission in the real world as a mystery, not only would it have been funnier in my opinion, but we'd also have a lot more intrigue for what's to come later, so that when we finally do get to see the game's overworld for the first time, it would have hit a lot harder, hearing that beautifully iconic music and taking in all the wonder and blocky landscape for the first time. When unfortunately, that's just not how it goes down, which honestly leads to some spectacle being lost and the pacing being thrown in the first third. It's most likely due to some studio interference, obviously, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating. Honestly, I think I was expecting somewhat of a mundane adventure film, given that the plot reads as an ultra-simplistic kids film where lackluster characters are working to get back home and escape from evil piglins. And though it's a kids film, no question about it, this film's stuffed with Hess's signature humor with loads of strange, quirky laughs that kept me from getting bored and taking this too seriously, as did the pretty decent action sequences, but mostly the inspiring scale of the overworld really made this work for me. As someone who's loved the game since I was 6 years old and played it for a majority of my spare time, the biggest compliment I can really give this movie is that I truly love how they depicted this world, from the design of the environments, props, crops, and mobs, giving everything a tactile and realistic look and feel, compared to the pixelated game that is. Additionally, the best parts I enjoyed were anytime someone had to survive a situation as you would in Minecraft, but we'd actually see how they'd really go about slapping massive, blocky zombies, fleeing a fight on an elytra, or riding on a minecart to escape an exploding mine, which all gave me that similar sense of wonder that I felt from the games. Despite that god-awful green screen everyone's honing in on, it was really only a distraction when there's a scene set outside, and I found that the actual practical elements on set really stood out and helped take away from that. Like, you can seriously tell there is a lot of care being put into the world building here, and I could really appreciate that sentiment for the fan base. There's even some cameos, obscure references to the game, and nods to the online culture, which was also pretty nice. And with this being an adventure film too, it scored with that mindset, and I really enjoyed hearing the songs I've spent so many memories with done on a full orchestra. But I will say, there's maybe a couple licensed songs in here that I did not find fitting at all. Even with the humor, it like pretty much ruined those moments by not playing the actual score, the game's music, or even just the original song of the sampled song, given it was one of those god-awful TikTok songs, which will probably most likely date this film poorly in roughly T-minus 1 year's time. Sorry. The last nitpick I have is that I had a really hard time figuring out who the actual main character is, if you can even call them characters, since this movie is far more concerned with showcasing spectacle and creativity than it is with building a story or even character arcs. However this film performs as an entertaining comedy, it also wants to be an adventure film, but like, nobody changed by the end. Everybody's still the same. Even the villain, which was honestly pretty funny. I think strangely enough though, the villain had more backstory. I could empathize with it more, and I was almost as invested seeing that side of the world's lore and the hilarious bumbling General Chungus as I was with the main cast. Cause you got Garbage Man Garrett, which like I've already said before in my FNAF video, that's like the worst name you can give somebody. It's a stupid name. Who's played by Jason Famosa. Steve, who's obviously Jack Black, and with the additions of this kid, his sister, and that lady for some reason, who's all very little character writing, unfortunately pretty much just leaves them as boy number 1, girl number 1, and girl number 2. There's no real direction as far as that story goes. Like, we don't really know anything about Steve as a character other than he likes to mine, since he doesn't really have any traits. In fact, I don't think a single character in this movie had traits, apart from, well, Garbage Man Garrett, who likes protein, which is a real shame since I've always had a soft spot for Jack Black, but he doesn't really have a whole lot to work with here regarding the story. And like people have said, really, is this who we should have chosen to play Steve? He's just playing himself. He's having a good time doing it. And with the direction here being more of just a comedy, which I ended up being fine with, I couldn't really imagine anybody else making Jared Hess's humor work other than Jablinski. Also, Jason Momoa proves he can make a silly role like this work. Surprisingly, he had some really good timing. I think he could probably do more comedy. I was appropriately laughing at all the performances throughout. Jennifer Coolidge too was dating a villager. I thought that was a real standout. And if I wasn't audibly cackling at parts, I was definitely letting a giggle slip pretty often.
Teleport you to wherever you throw it.
Yeah, right.
And that was the only one I had. No biggie.
In the end, it's pretty much exactly what you expect. I'd say this is honestly one of the better video game adaptations just because of how much fun it's having with itself. Surprisingly though, I had a really good time with this one. I could force myself to be miserable, like as a film critic, but with this much personality on screen and in the direction, this movie kind of won me over. So, a Minecraft movie, from a critical point of view, gets like a 4 out of 10. And as just a fun comedy, gets like an 8 out of 10, baby. Remember to comment your thoughts if you've seen the movie or if you just feel like yapping. Give a like if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more of me, and don't forget to wash your hands, wear your seatbelt, and stay black. This movie inspired me to go play some Minecraft too. Honestly, I haven't killed the Ender Dragon by myself ever, so why not start my adventure today? And I think I just might. I've been making videos for like 2 weeks at this point. I don't know if my catch-up video is coming out first or after this, so don't worry about that. Thanks for watching my videos. I'm gonna go play some Minecraft.